Abraham Lincoln, even as the Civil War raged, looked towards healing a nation fractured. His vision for Reconstruction, embodied in his 10% plan, reflected a pragmatic approach to peace. Lincoln believed in swift reintegration for Southern states, offering amnesty to former Confederates who pledged loyalty to the Union. This plan, while criticized by some as too lenient, underscored Lincoln's commitment to binding the nation's wounds. He sought to move past the bitterness of war and establish a lasting peace. Lincoln's vision emphasized forgiveness and reconciliation. It aimed to swiftly bring the South back into the national fold. Some, particularly within his own party, argued for harsher punishments for the South. However, Lincoln remained steadfast in his belief that a swift and compassionate reunification was in the nation's best interest. He viewed Reconstruction as a period not for retribution, but for rebuilding and reconciliation. The plan outlined a process for readmitting Southern states to the Union once 10% of its voters pledged loyalty to the U.S. and accepted the end of slavery. Lincoln understood that the road to national unity would be long and arduous. His vision for Reconstruction set the stage for the challenges and triumphs that would define this tumultuous period. Lincoln, known for his political acumen, possessed a unique ability to navigate the turbulent waters of American politics. Had he survived the assassination, his skills would have been critical in shaping the course of Reconstruction. Lincoln's ability to build bridges, even with those who vehemently opposed him, would have been instrumental in guiding congressional policies. He knew how to compromise, when to stand firm, and how to persuade others to see his vision. Lincoln's deep understanding of human nature, coupled with his commitment to preserving the Union, would have made him a formidable force in the political arena. During his presidency, Lincoln demonstrated a remarkable capacity for bringing together opposing factions. His cabinet, for example, included some of his fiercest rivals, yet he managed to foster a spirit of collaboration and unity within his administration. In the aftermath of the Civil War, Lincoln's political skills would have been more crucial than ever. His ability to navigate the complex political landscape, forge compromises, and inspire hope would have been essential in shaping a just and lasting peace. The relationship between Lincoln and the Radical Republicans, a faction within the Republican Party known for their staunch advocacy for black rights, was complex and often fraught with tension. Lincoln, while morally opposed to slavery, advocated for a more gradual approach to emancipation and racial equality. The Radical Republicans, on the other hand, pushed for immediate and sweeping change. Despite their differences, Lincoln recognized the importance of working with the Radical Republicans who held significant sway in Congress. He understood that their support was crucial for enacting any meaningful Reconstruction policies. Lincoln's ability to find common ground, to appeal to the shared goal of national unity, might have allowed him to bridge the gap with the Radicals. Lincoln's political skills would have been put to the test in his dealings with the Radical Republicans. The presence of a living Lincoln, a figure who commanded respect even from his critics, might have tempered the Radicals' more extreme impulses. This dynamic could have significantly impacted the trajectory of federal protection for freed slaves. Lincoln's stance on black civil rights evolved throughout his presidency. While initially hesitant to embrace full racial equality, he increasingly recognized the moral imperative of granting black Americans full citizenship rights. Had he lived, Lincoln's commitment to protecting freed slaves from the South's attempts to subjugate them would have been paramount. His presence as a national symbol against injustice might have emboldened black communities and moderate whites to resist the rising tide of Jim Crow. Lincoln's ability to exert moral authority, coupled with his political skills, might have resulted in more robust legislation protecting black civil rights. He could have used his influence to push for continued federal presence in the South, ensuring the enforcement of laws like the Civil Rights Act of 1866. Lincoln's vision for Reconstruction extended beyond simply ending slavery. He envisioned a nation where black Americans could live freely and equally. Lincoln supported the creation of the Freedmen's Bureau, which provided essential services such as education, healthcare, and legal assistance to formerly enslaved people. Had he lived, his leadership during Reconstruction could have potentially mitigated the rise of Jim Crow by establishing stronger legal protections and promoting economic opportunities. Despite Lincoln's vision for a unified nation, the South's deeply entrenched resistance to racial equality would have presented a formidable obstacle. The defeated Confederacy, while militarily subdued, remained socially and politically defiant. White Southerners, clinging to their former way of life, resented federal intervention and the newly acquired rights of their former slaves. This resistance manifested in various forms, from discriminatory laws and black codes to violence and intimidation tactics employed by groups like the Ku Klux Klan. These groups, fueled by racial prejudice and a desire to maintain white supremacy, terrorized black communities and undermined federal attempts to enforce Reconstruction policies. Lincoln's conciliatory nature, while effective in bridging political divides, might have proven insufficient to overcome the South's deeply ingrained racial prejudice and resistance to change. The question remains whether even Lincoln's political prowess and moral leadership could have effectively countered the South's entrenched commitment to white supremacy. Lincoln, despite his best efforts, might have found himself battling against a deeply ingrained cultural and social order. Another significant challenge Lincoln would have faced was the waning commitment to Reconstruction among Northerners. The North, initially steadfast in its support for black rights and a complete transformation of the South, gradually began to prioritize other issues. The immense cost of Reconstruction, both financially and in terms of social upheaval, led to a gradual decline in public support for continuing federal intervention in the South. Economic concerns, such as industrial growth and westward expansion, increasingly occupied the nation's attention. The urgency of the pre-war abolitionist movement waned, replaced by a more pragmatic focus on national reconciliation and economic progress. This shift in priorities meant that Lincoln would have had to rally support for Reconstruction policies at a time when public interest was dwindling. Without the North's unwavering commitment, Lincoln's vision of a truly integrated and equitable society would have been difficult to realize. He would have needed to remind the nation of the moral imperative of Reconstruction and the importance of ensuring that the sacrifices made during the Civil War were not in vain. Lincoln's vision for Reconstruction would have encountered another formidable obstacle: the Supreme Court. The court, during Lincoln's time, held a more narrow interpretation of federal power, particularly concerning issues of race and civil rights. Several key Supreme Court decisions made after Lincoln's death significantly weakened the federal government's ability to protect black rights and enforce Reconstruction policies. One such case was the Slaughterhouse Cases of 1873, which limited the scope of the 14th Amendment, particularly its protection of individual rights from state infringement. This decision, along with others like United States v. Cruikshank in 1875, effectively undermined federal efforts to suppress white supremacist violence and enforce equal protection for black citizens. Lincoln, despite his legal background and understanding of the Constitution, would have found himself battling a judiciary that was increasingly unsympathetic to the plight of black Americans and the goals of Reconstruction. Lincoln's ability to navigate this judicial landscape would have been crucial. He might have attempted to appoint justices who shared his vision of a more just and equitable society. Lincoln's survival would have significantly altered Reconstruction. His political skills and commitment to black rights would have been invaluable. Lincoln's vision of reconciliation might have led to a smoother transition. He might have mitigated white Southern resistance and secured federal protection for black citizens. Lincoln's appeal to the nation's conscience might have sustained Northern support for Reconstruction. However, even Lincoln might not have erased the deep-seated challenges of Reconstruction. Lincoln's survival might have led to a more successful Reconstruction, but racial prejudice and inequality would have persisted. Lincoln's survival, while a tantalizing what-if scenario, ultimately underscores the deeply rooted nature of racial injustice in America. Even with his leadership, the nation would have grappled with the legacy of slavery and the immense challenges of integrating a people so long denied their basic rights. The forces of white supremacy, economic disparity, and social prejudice would have continued to present formidable obstacles to Lincoln's vision of a truly unified and equitable nation. The struggle for civil rights and racial equality in the United States did not end with the Civil War or Reconstruction. It continues to this day, a testament to the deeply ingrained nature of prejudice and discrimination. Lincoln's legacy in the realm of Reconstruction lies not in his ability to single-handedly solve the nation's racial divide, but in his unwavering belief in the possibility of a more just and equitable future. His vision of a nation healed, where all citizens are afforded equal rights and opportunities, continues to inspire and guide us as we grapple with the ongoing challenges of race and equality in America. Lincoln's legacy challenges us to continue the fight for a more perfect union, one that lives up to its promise of equality and opportunity for all.